Okay, so I wanted to take a couple of seconds to talk about ABA therapy, why it's so super duper important, and what we as parents need to do to get the most out of it. And I apologize, but I am going to get a little bit on a soapbox because a couple of years ago, something happened to me where a parent came to me, and it was right after I'd started my radio show, and she came to me in my community and said, so my kiddo just got diagnosed with autism. I know you know a little bit about this. I said, I'm not an expert. And she goes, no, but I know you've been there, done there. Jem seems to be doing well. Okay, what do I do? And I said, well, I would really recommend that you clean up your child's diet. I would really recommend that you get them as healthy as possible. I would really recommend that you do ABA therapy and that you do it intensively because that's what all the science says. And I would really recommend that you learn all the principles of ABA because that's, what's found to be effective and whatever. And she was like, oh, okay. And she left, and then I saw her a couple weeks later, and I said, how are things going? And she was like, oh, I know you said to do this, and I know, and we're thinking about the ABA thing, but, we can't, I can't quit my job, I know you quit your job and you started doing something else, but not everybody can do that. And, and we need to keep a roof over our head. So, we might try 10 hours. I don't know, we may not do it at all. And I was like, well, everybody has to do what they have to do. And it was a couple of years later that I ran into her again, and she all but punched me and said, how dare you? And how could you have done that to me? You knew that I needed to get my child that therapy, and you knew how much it would have helped him, and you did not say to me, and your whole life will be different if you don't do this. And she said, you didn't make it sound like it was urgent. She said, you recommended it, but you didn't say to me, and if you don't do this, you're going to be mad at yourself forever. And for me, I was so upset and took that so to heart. And I said, okay, gloves off. From now on, I'm not going to mamby-pamby because I can't afford to. I can't afford to because I didn't put it in the right perspective for her. I didn't think about where she was coming from, which was overwhelmed, tired, exhausted, and not knowing what she was facing. So, gloves off, and you'll hopefully accept my apology for the fact that I'm not going to mamby-pamby it for you. So here's the deal. There's so much more science that needs to be done on autism. There's so much more science that needs to be done. But a lot of science is in, and a lot of it is conclusive in terms of what we should be doing today. And if you got the news about what the science was a year ago, I have news for you. It's new. There's new science that's in. There's new science that's in as of last week. And part of my responsibility is to share it with you and then say to you, and you gotta do it. And guess what? It's gonna be hard. And there is going to be no part of it that's going to be easy, and I don't want to sugarcoat it for you at all. But here's what we know. At State of the Union right now, we know that if we get children, and you're going to say, but what about this and what about, there's a lot of things we don't know, right? But here's what we do know. If we get children between the ages of 3 and 5 or 6, and we give those children a couple of different things, between 25 and 40 hours of ABA, but I will tell you that the 25 to 30, know that lots of kids were looked at in this setup, and they had different amounts of skill ability, right? So there were some kids who were very high functioning that 25, they squeaked by and they are doing really well, but that 25 is not the prescription, right? If you want the best possible circumstances for your child to get the furthest, then what the studies clearly show is that 40 hours is the benchmark. 40 hours is the starting benchmark of where you have to go. And on top of that, the kids who do the best, because not all kids who get 40 hours get to a point where they are completely indistinguishable from their neurotypical peers. So what are the determining factors of the kids who do well? Getting 40 hours, a minimum of 40 hours, key. key, right? But secondary to that is that they got to have experienced people designing the program, which means not only do you need to have probably a BCBA, although, you know, there are some people who are amazing who don't yet have their BCBAs that are getting their BCBAs, but BCBA, you got to have an experienced BCBA. And on top of that, they have to have access to a curriculum that's amazing. Now, I got to say to you, your BCBA can be writing curriculum, and that might be great, but that's going to take a whole bunch of time. And how effective is it if they're just writing it and trying it out? Your BCBA they can get access to skills. This, we already know, is a curriculum that works, right? With an experienced BCBA. And your BCBA can have access to that. Let me just tell you, go to skillsforautism.com, or you can call 877-975-4559. Okay, so, you know, and people have gotten grants to be able to have this for their schools, for their communities. Like, there is a cost that comes with skills. It's not as much as 90% of the things in autism, but still, there's a cost. But don't let that stop you. There are grants and things, but that's the curriculum, right? You got to have a good curriculum because it has to make sense to get to progress. So you got to have the hours, you got to have somebody who's designing the program, and they have to have access to a great curriculum. But you know what the next most important thing is for your child to have success? That is that the parents have to learn these techniques and have to be utilizing them past the 40 hours. Have to. So not only should I have said to that parent, you know, when she said, what do I need to do? Not only should I have said, you got to get good quality ABA and you got to get it yesterday. I should have said, and you need to become as close to an expert as you can on how to do the intervention with your child. That's the recipe. And people shortchange it all the time. And let me say to you, you have other things going on in your life. I know you do. I know you do. But this is where we get into, where's your perspective on this? See, I'm going to cry. I have to tell you that when my son started his intensive ABA therapy, we had other things going on. And one of them was my best friend was diagnosed with cancer. And it was horrifying to me. Because I had a sister who was ill and a mother who was ill in other states. And I was like, I felt like taffy, that I was being pulled in 7 different directions about what do I need to do and when do I need to do it. And I had to prioritize. Now, that did not mean that I wasn't there for my friend, but it meant that I never went for chemo with her. And to this day, that pains me to say to you. Her husband said to me, you know, we want for some of her friends to go for chemo, and she would really like for you to go and be there with her for chemo, to be there and hold her hand through it. And I want to tell you how important that was to me and how much I would have loved to have done that. But that when she went for chemo was when my son had clinic. And I had to prioritize. And I had to say, I have to be at my son's clinic. I want to be able to be in both places, but I cannot. And I brought this life into this world, and I know what the prescription is. And I had a set of parents who said to me, this is what you have to do. And you have to prioritize whatever that clinic is. I mean, CARD called it clinic now. They don't call it that now. Now they call it parent training. And other ABA providers call it different things, but it's a period of time when you sit down and talk about what is working for your child, and you work with the BCBA to figure out what the next steps are. And, you know, it's very easy for us to say, well, they can do that in a room and just message us. But if you are not on the team, you are not getting the prescription the way it needs to be written. And now, you know, 10 years later, as I've had opportunity to meet all these families and meet kids that are doing so awesome, that their autism is not a disability for them anymore. I mean, we can use all different kinds of words. We can use the word recovery. We can use the word remission, but we can say that they're neurotypically you can't tell the difference between them and their neurotypical peers. That's the phrase that I'm looking for. We can say all of those things, right? But the way I look at it as a mom and as a former teacher is there anything that has to do with a diagnosis of autism that's preventing them from doing the things that they want to do in life? And I see across the board, the kids that are in that category, call it whatever you want, in that category, it's because they made a commitment as a family. And sometimes that means it's a single mom with 3 kids, right? But she made a commitment that she was going to do this and get the prescription. 40 hours of ABA, but more ABA happening delivered by the parent afterwards, even in exhaustion and tears, getting, talented people on the team that are experienced so that, and making sure that they have a curriculum that makes sense. I heard somebody at the retreat talking about a young man, 14 years old, that has been working on the same 2 lessons for a couple of years now. And when I tell you, it makes me mad and it makes me want to throw up. You've got to make sure that you've got talented people and that they have access to a curriculum, and they don't have to write it themselves. They can use Skills. Skillsforautism.com. 877-975-4559. And listen when I say this to you, that if you have a group of people that need this curriculum and cannot afford it, please write to me and I will help you to try to figure out who can help you to do that. I know that Autism Care and Treatment Today has given grants before to families and to groups to be able to provide skills. And I know that there have been grants by states that have given it to schools and to ABA providers. So all things are possible. And if you need help with that, I would be proud to be on your team to help you figure out how you can get access to it, okay? Because it's there. A lot of work was done. That curriculum is there and it works. It's the same curriculum that my child had. I can tell you that this curriculum works. And there isn't another one like it. It comes with an assessment. It comes with a whole bunch of things. It's fantabulous. I can't say enough nice thing about Skills. But it's just one of the parts of the prescription. And I so deeply need for all the parents to listen for a moment while I say to you that I understand how it feels when you're in the intensive intervention part of it and you want to run. I said something in a meeting the other day and it was so honest that afterwards I was like, oh, I should never have said that. I should never have said that because it was like to the bone honest. But I made a commitment then that I was going to keep saying it so that people would know that when I say I understand, that after my child was diagnosed and the first time that I fully understood what the prescription was and what it was going to take from me and what it was going to take from my husband, I remember saying to a very close friend in total confidence to her, I said, I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. I don't think I'm up to it. And I don't want to find out that I'm not up to it because I don't think I can face that as a parent. If I'm not willing to do the hard work for my kid, I don't want to face it. And what I said to her was, I found myself wishing that I would get into a car accident, that I would go into a coma, not die. I didn't want to die, right? But I just wanted to be put into a coma and have somebody wake me up in 4 years and tell me that it was all over, that all the hard work had been done, and that everything was okay. That's all I wanted. And it's embarrassing and humbling to admit that that's the thought that I had. But I have to be honest with you that that's the thought, that's how overwhelmed I was about the idea of it. So when I say to you, if I could do this, then I know for sure that you can. I know for sure that you can because I did not think that I could do it. I didn't think that we could do it. I knew that we couldn't financially do it. I 100%, and I don't know how we did. I mean, I can point to some things, but the numbers don't add up. And sometimes that's how a miracle goes. You just have to go, oh, we're doing this. And it's going to get ugly and it's going to get dirty. And I'm going to get my dress dirty, right? But we're just going to keep on plugging and we're going to do this. And I'll be honest with you that I heard that the prescription was 4 years. 4 years of that kind of intensity. And I went, okay, mark 4 years. We're going to do 4 years. It ended up being 5. Okay. All right. I'm just going to say, and for some people it's less. Some people get out in 2 and go, woo, we got it. Some people it's 3, we did 5. And what I very honestly said to some people at the retreat was, as many times as I wanted to cancel a session and be like, I just can't do it today. I just can't handle it today. I need a vacation from autism. I just can't, you know what I mean? Like I wanted to be like, oof, we just can't do it. I look back on it now and I don't have a single regret of a single day that I go, oh, I wish we'd gone to the beach on that day. Not a single one, you guys. And I mean this from the very bottom of my heart. I had a lot of resentment about it while we were going through it, going, why can't we go to the beach like everybody? Why can't we go on vacation? Why, because we're stuck here doing therapy, right? But now that I've seen what happens, I don't have a single regret for a single day that we did therapy. The only regrets I have are days when I couldn't suck it up, days when I couldn't get it together, days when it didn't happen. And here's the other part. Here's the new science that we have that we didn't have back when I was doing therapy. Back when we were doing therapy, we thought the best thing was to have it in the home. Now, we knew that it was important to take it out into the community and go to the grocery store and go to the public pool and go all those places. And that's still super duper important. But we believed that it was important to have it in the home. And the reason why was not because the home was any particular thing. There were certain things that happened in the home that needed to happen there, but because we wanted the parents to learn it. But here's what we have found out. The science is in on this. It's 100% clear. Our kids learn faster when they are in the center. And it's not a little bit faster, you guys. It's a lot faster. 80 to 85% faster when they're in the center. Which means that what took me 5 years to do, we could have done if we had center-based therapy in probably 3 years. In 3 years, and then we would have been back to going to the beach in those last 2 years when we weren't. So I know it's harder because it means that like it used to be, there were days when I was like, oh, I just can't do this, like to the point of, seriously, like, oh no, I can't, and knock, knock, knock at the door, and it was a therapist. And what was I going to do? Send them away? And they were there and it just kind of happened, right? Now it means that you got to commit to the center, which is hard, really hard. And then you have to get in the car and drive to it, which is that much harder. And believe me, when I say, I get it, I know. But that's the prescription. And I'll hold your hand the whole time. And you can write to me and you can write nasty things and say, Shannon, I'm so mad at you. And I really hate, send it, shoulders broad, I will take it. But you still got to do it. You got to do it because I know what happens if you don't. I know the anger in that mom that was like, you did not tell me that this is what I had to do what was best for my child. That it wasn't like the recommended, no, this is what you got to do. This is it, gloves off, it's the truth. And I got to tell you, you're going to sign up for it and card's going to say, great, but you can't start yet because you got to do this hoop, this hoop, this hoop. And you're going to be like, what? What? You mean you're going to make it harder for me? There are hoops that have to be gone through. And you're going to get there, and the therapist that you are working with, that you love and loves your child, is going to get pregnant and move halfway across the country and be gone. And they're going to have to train somebody, and it's going to take a couple of weeks, and you're going to go, what? Shannon told me it was so important, and now you're telling me I can't have this for a couple of weeks, and you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to pull up the slack, and you're going to have to be calling people, even at card, and saying, how soon can I have the next therapist? Stuff's going to happen. It's not going to be easy. Been there, done it. And like I said, if I can do it, you can do it. And let me just tell you, it's worth it. All of it, it's worth it. Okay? So I've gotten on my soapbox now. Because it has to be said. And every single time you have an opportunity for parent training, you have to take it. Yes, I went to clinics sometimes and fell asleep in the middle of it because I was that exhausted and overwhelmed, and like the disc was full and I couldn't take any more, right? And I cried after every single clinic that we had for 5 years. Every single one, I got in the car and cried. Yep, but it's worth it. That's all I can tell you. It's worth it, okay? I hold your hand. Si se puede, right? Always. Do what you got to do. Do it today. Start the process. Call me, yell at me, write me, email me, yell at me. Tell me everything that you're mad about. Fine, let's do that if that's what it takes. But come on, join me, and you'll be glad you did.